In this video, I want to go over my top 5 tips for bulking and how to make the process of bulking a little bit easier, especially if you are someone that struggles with putting on size, putting on new muscle, gaining strength, or just someone that is more of a hard gainer in terms of not having much of an appetite, or someone that struggles with really getting the calories in required to get bigger. So first and foremost, my top tip, probably arguably the most important tip out of the 5, is to consume foods that are more calorically dense. This kind of goes without saying, but foods that are higher in calories, lower in volume. This is probably the number one trick if you are someone that struggles getting the calories in. So switching your foods from your normal foods that might fill you up more into foods like nuts are probably my go-to, one of the best sources of calories for someone that struggles with getting their calories in. Obviously things like almonds, peanuts, walnuts, cashews are a tremendous source of calories for a relatively small portion size. You're looking at like 500-600 calories per like 100 gram serving, which is crazy. 5-6x of what you're eating, which is awesome, right? So nuts are probably my go-to. Bars, granola bars are great. Trail mix, avocados are good. Even coconut oil for cooking or even putting in your shake, easily add another 200 calories to your daily mix. So just foods like that again, that are higher in calories, lower in volume, will help tremendously, especially if you are someone that struggles with the appetite or always feeling stuffed. These foods obviously are a lot lower in volume, so they're not going to fill you up as much despite having a lot higher calories. My second tip is to make sure you are having breakfast. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I'm a massive advocate for skipping breakfast for fat loss because it makes your eating window a lot smaller and it makes you more satiated throughout the day. The exact opposite obviously applies if you're trying to gain weight and build muscle. You have to kind of increase your caloric window of feeding. So making sure that you are consuming breakfast will help a lot, because if you're trying to consume, let's say 3,000 calories in a shorter condensed window, it will be a lot harder. You have to almost force feed and kind of stuff yourself, which is never pleasant. So kind of space out your food, have breakfast. If you have to have a meal before bed, by all means. But again, do not skip breakfast if you are trying to build muscle and you struggle getting the calories in. And my third tip is similar to my second tip, in which it usually only applies to specific scenarios, bulking being one of them, which is consume liquid calories. Usually I'm very against liquid calories because in my opinion it's a waste if you are trying to lose fat. However, if you're struggling with getting calories in, including liquid calories is more than okay. Things like orange juice or apple juice, other juices or Gatorades can be totally good, especially around your training window when your body will use those carbs more readily, those sugars, ideally prior to your workout, because your body again will use those carbohydrates and sugars right away to fuel your workout. And my fourth tip when it comes to bulking is on the training side of things, is to really focus on progressive overload. When you are bulking, this is the absolute best time to build new muscle, gain strength, have awesome pumps. So really making sure you're making the most out of this time, because trust me, when you're cutting, it's not going to be as fun training when you have excess calories and energy to play with. So with the training aspect, really making sure you are focusing on the progressive overload aspect of it. I touched on this in the last video, so you should know what progressive overload is by now. But just a quick reminder, there are 5 variables that you can play with when it comes to applying progressive overload to your training, right? It doesn't always have to be increasing weight. You don't have to increase the weight every single session. You can also increase the frequency, how often you hit that muscle, increase the volume, reps and sets, decreasing the rest time between sets, and increase or improving your form or slowing down the eccentric part of the movement. So let's say for bench press, the way down would be the eccentric, slowing that down, and then being explosive on the concentric or the way up, right? So any one of those 5 variables will greatly improve your weekly, how you improve on a week-to-week basis. And any one of those 5 variables can be your way of focusing on progressive overload, right? So really making sure you're capitalizing on this and making the most out of your time of being a calorie surplus by focusing on one of those variables with progressive overload. And my 5th tip when it comes to bulking is making sure you are prioritizing your rest. Probably one of the biggest mistakes that I did when I was going through my first few years of lifting was not resting enough, because I had this mentality where I thought the more I lifted, the more gains I would get, when in reality, all your gains come on the rest days or when you're recovering, right? When you're in the gym, the days where you're training hard is when you're breaking down your muscles, and when you're resting is when your body's recovering and actually growing that new tissue. So really making sure you're prioritizing your rest times, and obviously the frequency of rest really depends on, one, your experience level and how often you are training right now. Beginners, I mentioned this before, do not need to go to the gym every single day. This is way overkill, and you can actually regress by training too often. So really have a self-assessment. Evaluate how experienced you are. Be honest, but if you are a beginner, you'll make so many gains with just going to the gym 3 times a week. That's really all you need. Upper body, full body. If you want to go 4 days a week, upper lower, those are awesome splits. If for someone that is more of a beginner, and you will make tons of gains with that. If you're brand new, you're going to the gym every single day. Like I said, you're not getting enough rest time. You're going to be so fatigued. It's going to take you so long to recover that you're not going to grow that much at all. So again, really prioritize rest, making sure you're having enough rest days throughout the week. If you're brand new, all you need is 3 sessions a week, and then as you kind of get more experience, adding another session, 4, 5. I would go up to 6. But for me personally, I always make sure to have a rest day after my 3rd consecutive day of training. I make that a priority. It is difficult sometimes because I love training now, but I make sure after the 3rd consecutive day of training that I have a rest day, just so my body is feeling good, able to recover, and that I'm able to hit my future sessions hard. Because I've noticed, if I were to go 6 days in a row, my first 3 are usually great, and then 4, 5, and 6, the intensity of those sessions are definitely a lot lower if I go consecutively than those first 3 sessions. So I always aim to have that 4th day, a rest day, and kind of let my body rest, recover, and grow from those previous 3 sessions. And one little bonus tip to finish off this video that I see so many younger or newer trainees do is resorting to mass gainers, right? So my recommendation is to avoid these at all costs, because 1, you'll feel like garbage consuming these every single day, and 2, they're obviously horrendous for your health due to the amount of synthetic ingredients that are in these mass shakes. So avoid these at all costs. Get your calories as much as you can from real sources of food. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, things like nuts, oils, avocados, bars are all great sources of calories, and you'll just feel a lot better because there's also a lot more micronutrients in those food, versus mass gainers, like I said, are full of synthetic ingredients that aren't great for your health. So avoid mass gainers at all costs. We'll touch on supplements in more depth in another module, but that kind of rounds off the video. Hope you guys enjoyed these top 5 tips, and we'll see you in the next video.